Susi here at Fishman Live. As you know, we've been doing this pretty much every week, sometimes 2, 3 times a week. We've had so many interesting guests, and today we have another really great guest. But before I announce who it is, I just wanted to kind of run over how this goes. We have a chat. We're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and let me see, where is it? Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you have any questions, do me a favor, write it. I'll see it. Our guests cannot see your questions, so I will read them off as I see them. So today I want to announce one of my favorite guitar players, Mr. Vernon Reid. Vernon Reid, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I was just saying, like, you put your camera on, you got some type of studio over there. How's that thing
Yeah,
going?
it's sort of a part of the Dharma Lab you're seeing behind me. I don't have the screen on because that would be rude and weird. So yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. So obviously there's a lot going on in the music industry, right? We're all being
Yep.
affected by, like, whether it's business wise, socially, touring, the whole nine. I know you've been a road dog your whole life. So what is it?
hmm
What is it that you're doing right now in order to stay safe? And actually, where are you located? Where you live?
I'm in this is my studio school. I'm in Dharma Lab 5 in the borough of Shaolin, aka Staten Island, New York.
Yep.
And I live in the St. George district near the North Shore
All
of the
right.
island.
And it's like New York's been heavily affected by this whole pandemic, right?
It has been. It has been. This is an area of some of the peak instances of really infection and death toll.
Wow. Is there anything like very unique for everyone out there that's around the country or around the world that you're seeing outside your window on your streets that has been kind of like, different from the norm? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of testing centers and stuff like that.
Well, what's been happening is like one of the main modes of transportation on Staten Island is the Staten Island Ferry, and the ridership has been way off. So they've taken, I think, half of the boats out of commission because normally you get a boat every half hour, and now we get a boat every hour.
Whoa.
And we get boats on the hour leaving Shaolin and boats on the half hour coming back from Manhattan. So that's affected it. And, I actually have gone on the ferry a couple of times. And one thing that's good to see is that about 8 out of 10 people are wearing gloves and masks. I've seen that.
That's great. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are you doing? Obviously, you have to go out and go get your, food, supplies, stuff like that. I mean, you're being extremely careful. Is there, I mean, going to the grocery market, right, is a task at this point.
Yeah, it is. But one thing I have been doing is, I'm a guitarist, as you know, but I'm also a photographer, and I've been going into different parts of the city and taking photographs. I have a series called Pandemic Postcards, and you could see it on Instagram. My Instagram is Vernt, VURNT 22, Vernt 22 on Instagram, and I've done about 5. I call them Insta missions, and I've gone to Manhattan. I've been to the financial district. I've been to Midtown. I rode all the way out to past the Verrazano Bridge to the boardwalk here on Shaolin. But I've also, my last one I did this week, I do this with my bicycle. So
Yep.
I take the Staten Island ferry and then I take my bike. The last one I did was this past Monday, and I rode my bike over the Brooklyn Bridge and came back on the Manhattan Bridge.
Oh,
And
yeah. I'm seeing some of
so
these
it's
shots. They're awesome.
yeah, it's pretty wild to see the city in in lockdown. I mean, now people are starting to come back out, but still, I have shots of going down. I have a shot of Chinatown, which is totally empty. I've taken shots down Second Avenue. I've been up on 42nd Street, and it's very interesting to see the city in this kind of this pandemic lockdown mode, where people are really off the streets at odd times. And I've driven like into the city one time, but I mainly have been staying off the roadways, and I haven't gotten into the subways yet. I'm sort of getting up the nerve to maybe take the subway. But generally, I for the social distancing aspect, on the ferry early in the morning, it's very easy to stay 10 feet away from people. So
Yeah.
that's been actually cool. And once I get off the boat, then I jump on my bike and I either go up the West Side Highway or go up the FDR Drive. And they have great bike paths in the city, so that's what I've been doing.
I absolutely love the fact that you're getting out there, you're getting some fresh air, you're going out and you're doing photography and stuff like that. I am also a photographer. I'm
Hmm.
at Ken Susi Photography, but my whole thing is when I'm on tour, I
Hmm.
literally my kind of like my home is just like getting on a subway, not knowing how to ride it, and literally going
Hmm.
around and taking pictures, right? And I was doing the same thing in Italy right when the pandemic hit in Milan. I was in
Wow.
Milan playing a
Mm,
show. So
mm.
it's unbelievable what you see. Like it's one thing to walk around your city, but to ride your bike and then actually capture it, like being a photographer, that's really, really special. So you must be getting, obviously, you're getting a lot of great stuff. I kind of flashed my camera to the webcam, but like, yeah. So how long have you been doing photography?
I've been doing photography since the '80s, since the really, I would say from the middle '80s on. And I've shot analog and digital. I've had different cameras. I've shot 4x5, mainly 35 millimeter. I've shot medium format. But I'll tell you something about shooting with your phone. It's interesting because of course, you like to shoot with nice, super nice glass and all those kind of things, and you can get great shots. But the thing about the phone is that you can get shots that you absolutely cannot get with a DSLR, in the sense of, like, once you have a camera and you hold it up, it changes the environment. If you're shooting on the street, people either avoid it, they flinch away, or they start to pose, and it's a different art to get spontaneous shots with a DSLR. You have to kind of be kind of stealth with it. With the phone, it's really interesting. You can capture things that are real raw and very immediate. Um, because because in a way, people assume you're taking you're doing text messaging or reading a text or something like that. And you have to be clever about one thing is don't look. I mean, don't. It's a funny thing about setting up the shot, but not looking into the viewfinder.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're looking, that's the other thing. That's part of the thing about even shooting with a DSLR. If you Once you put your eye to the viewfinder, then it changes the thing. It's almost like holding the camera parallel to your face
Yep.
in pretty much in the assumptive pose
Yep.
of where the shot is, and then you know how we do. We'll take shots before and after, and then the rest of it is editing. Because a lot of things will be off. The f-stop is off, whatever, and then you have to really, photography is you know committing to shooting, and then later on the editing process. Even with analog, you get a contact sheet, and what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
you have 36 shots to choose from,
Yep.
or 24, or
Or
whatever,
12
or
at
or
sometimes. Yeah.
or 12, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Or you wind up with a gang of shots, of course, on your phone, because you can take so many more of them. And it's funny how the main thing about photography is seeing the picture.
Yep.
You have to see the pictures first. Then, I mean, there's of course, there are all the technical things of photography. So, bracketing, knowing, have an idea. After a while, what f-stop, more or less. You get a sense. It's weird how you get a sense. Just the same way that a front of house engineer will say, roll off 2.5K, because after a while, once you are in the environment, in the language, then you start to hear and see things as they are. It's very weird how that math becomes almost innate. Um, it's weird, like when you see pictures and you can't take them.
Yep.
That's a crazy thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh my god, you see the setup, you see the composition,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean, and the camera or the phone is tucked away, and it's weird how a lot of times we'll go out to shoot and you'll see nothing, nothing, nothing.
Yep.
And then you go, oh, okay, forget it. And then as soon as you put the camera or the phone down, all of a sudden the world opens up and crazes, and a flying saucer comes down, the little green men come out, and they start dancing and waving, and your phone is in your bag or your camera is, and that's the craziness of it.
Well,
And it's very much, yeah.
yeah, I'll agree
It's,
with you because like there's you could be looking at like two buildings and you might be like setting up your camera because you saw a specific bird fly across that
yeah.
area, and then the next thing you know you're like an hour and a half in just waiting for a bird like to do that again and capture that moment, right?
It's really, it's very, like, the thing, shooting animals, like shooting things as they occur, is even my cat, like even our cats, right? Like my cat will be sitting there, and I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. And then I am like going, if I move really suddenly, the cat's gonna look away, or the cat's just gonna get up and walk, and and that's the it's a challenge. And also, I think in this time period, um, photographers can't flinch away from what they see. I mean that to say that this is an unprecedented. It's a pain in the ass because of all of the difficulties of it.
Yep.
But everyone is encountering, and because this is also worldwide, everyone is encountering this world of people trying to cope with the fact that they don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. They're worried about a relative or a friend. Um, they have people that are far away from them. What's work going to look like? All of these things are happening. And I think with photography, engaging, and this is the thing, like sheltering in place, like I basically took a calculated risk. I said, you know what? I wash my hands. I have like sanitizer with me. I wear a mask. I have got my gloves. I have a second set of gloves in case my gloves tear.
Yeah.
And I just felt it was really important as a part of a worldwide community of image makers to engage with the world, to
Yep.
engage with it, because and the other thing about it is we're engaging with this thing in stages, because since we don't know how long it's going to last, there are going to be even further changes that are going to happen. Because okay, so people are saying let's open up the economy again. Nobody living has experienced a pandemic. Like everyone that went through the 1918 influenza pandemic,
Yep.
they're all gone.
Yep.
So there's nobody that's going to say, we thought we went to the beach, and no, there's nobody alive to tell
Yeah.
us that.
Yeah.
And even the experience of a city like Philadelphia, like Philadelphia, and I think Philadelphia and Baltimore, they had two opposite kind of approaches. They had like a big parade,
Yep.
and it turned out disastrously.
Yep.
So now part of this is that we're engaged in a many month long economic, scientific, medical, social experiment.
Yep.
I mean, on every level. So because that's happening, and we're not getting away from it, you push it away, and COVID-19. Everyone's talking about COVID-19. Everyone's reacting to COVID-19,
Yeah.
and because of that, we're going to see this thing change and evolve as we go along.
Yeah.
And at first, there's bravado. We can do this. We're all in this together. And then you start to notice that everybody isn't in this together at the same rate. We're finding out that African American people are dying at a much higher rate. People of color are dying at a much higher rate. We're finding out that poor people are not able, regardless of who they are not able to socially distance, because one of the things about being broke is that you are with your people at all times.
Yep.
And it's kind of like when I took a shot of the Farragut housing project in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn. And I'm thinking to myself, the people that live here, how are they going to manage? how are they going to manage the situation when you have 6 people or 4 people in a 2 bedroom apartment or a 1 bedroom apartment?
Yep.
How is that going to work? Then there's a whole bunch of other aspects that are kind of behind closed doors. That is to say, what's happening with spouses and people that live together. What are those dynamics?
Yep.
And as we go through time, I mean, we're going to see and hear a lot of great, moving, encouraging things, but we're also going to see a lot of disturbing things
Yeah.
because COVID-19 Corona is the backdrop to everything else. So everything else is still going to happen. Buildings are going to go on fire. There are going to be natural disasters. There are going to be all these other things.
Yep. Well,
But
I was gonna say, man, this has really changed the world, and going back to like even talking about your photography and stuff like that, it's amazing that you're here and you're one of those guys that's like me that will just capture everything. So kind of to move on from that, like this is amazing.
sure.
You and I are gonna probably be talking for about an hour after this, like about photography and about this whole thing. But I want to transition into music real quick.
Oh, sure.
So like you are okay, in my opinion. I was probably like 12, 13 when Living Color first hit. You guys kind of just took the world by storm. Your guitar playing was so unique for its time. Obviously, there was like other great guitar players that have come before you, like Jimi Hendrix and like Robert. Yeah, yeah, like all these like amazing, like even the guys in your peer class, like Paul Gilbert, Yngwie Malmsteen, like all these guys were doing this. But you carved out a very specific like thing in the pop rock or rock industry, and even in like jazz and blues. It's like you have this unique style. What is it like? The photography and the things. Are you just an artistic guy who just creates? And is that where your style come from? Like, where did you find your sound?
Well, it's funny because for me, music was very much an additive process. That is to say, everything I liked was, I grew up listening to pop music and, James Brown and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and that kind of music. And I heard some of the early, like B.B. King and the blues artists like that, Luther Allison and people like this. But then I got exposed to people like Ornette Coleman and Eric Dolphy and John Coltrane and music like that. And somehow that also affected me, but I never let go of the things that I loved previously. So I still love Sly Stone. But then I got introduced to Conlon Nankaro.
Yep.
I got introduced to Albert Eiler. I got introduced to Sun Ra. The first concert I ever went to was Parliament Funkadelic. Was Funkadelic. It's funny. We're talking about things that we're doing in terms of musicians. The great music director, composer Ray Chu has been doing a thing to help gigging musicians, to raise money for gigging musicians. And I 2 days ago played on a track that he composed with George Clinton. So it was kind of funny. So literally yesterday I was on a Facebook Live thing with myself, George Clinton, Ray Chu, and Soledad O'Brien, and it was a really interesting discussion about where media is, where musicians are, and things like that. So, Parliament Funkadelic, my first record I ever bought with my own money was Funkadelic. So to play on a track with George Clinton is crazy. It's one of these. I'm very thankful for the career I've had because I've had this unique experience of meeting and performing with a lot of my heroes. I was, my first guitar influence was Carlos Santana. I mean, in the sense that I heard his guitar and the guitar stuck out to me and spoke to me. And I heard Hendrix after I heard Santana.
Yep.
But the funny thing is that I never thought about playing like them because to me, the thing that I liked about Santana and Hendrix was that they sounded like themselves.
Yep.
So for me, the question was, well, what is my sound? Who am I with this instrument?
Yep.
So it was always a thing. Like I always wanted to play things kind of similar to what they were playing, but I never wanted to play the exact same licks. It never like playing exactly like them was never. And I mean, and I know that there are people that have an encyclopedic knowledge of other guitarist licks, and they learn them and they can play them backwards. And I respect that. That's an incredible skill. But that never appealed to me. It was always felt to me the thing I dig about them is that they're themselves. So it didn't occur to me that I could imitate them and I'll become myself later on. It was like that never made sense to me.
This
So
yeah, this makes so much sense because like there are guys that are guitar studier type of guitar players. They learn their craft by watching other people. But it sounds like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're pulling way more influence out of bands that have like percussion. Like other bands, like even Parliament Funkadelic has a lot of horn sections and stuff like that. And I notice in your guitar playing, it is a shreddy guitar kind of style, but you improvise like you're a horn player almost, right? Am I wrong to say that?
no, yeah, and in fact, it's funny because the things that I jump to, it's weird. Like there are a lot of things with kind of chops, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're young, that's exciting, and playing fast is exciting, you know.
Yeah.
And musicians I heard, I mean, a lot of them that were also unique that played, you know, Carlos is more his tone. Even though he has chops, he was not like a guy that could express himself without playing fast. Neil Schon was in his band. Neil Schon was in the Santana band.
Yep.
And Neil Schon was the one in that band that played the choppy kind of fast stuff. So I kind of picked up, and then when he went on to do Journey, you know, I'd already been a fan, and a lot of people don't know that's he came out of the Santana band, and so hearing him and following him, like I like the oddballs, you know, I like the Jan Ackerman from Focus, I like Steve Howe from Yes, you know, they
Yeah.
played, you know, they have this thing. Fripp was is still, you know, one of I call him my senseis, you know, like Robert Fripp had this completely unique approach to guitar. He had a completely, you know, for his band was really odd because they were kind of progressive, and they did things that they would unfold, and you know, and then they would do things that were big riffy type of things. So they kind of went, you know, Fripp and King Crimson went all over the map. I think of the song Red. I mean, it's such a soaring that melody, and it's such a soaring melody. But then I turn around and think about Lark's Tongue and Aspect, which is a really creepy, you
Yep.
know, kind of very super avant-garde, and that's well before, you know, Discipline and Adrian Belew, who I also love. When I heard first time I heard Adrian Belew, you know, Adrian Belew was playing with the Talking Heads, and then I found out, he played with Zappa. And Zappa was another utterly unique stylist on the instrument who was also an insane composer. So the thing that you know, like everybody else, the guitar players that came out and had great chops, you know, I mean, of course, it's impressive. It's like, holy shit, how do you play that? But other things also kind of reach out to me. Somebody made just a noise that was weird. You know, I'm like, what? How'd you make that sound? And that's the thing. I mean, I kind of think about it is, you know, the obsession with chops. I mean, it's thrilling. It's great. It's an incredible thing. But having expression on guitar is, you know, just the way you play a chord, the way you hit the instrument. Randy Rhoads is a great example. You know, Randy Rhoads, when he was with Ozzy, you know, at the time Randy was active, you know, like the whole world had been focused on Eddie Van Halen with good reason.
Yep.
Eddie just came and blew everything up. He literally came and dropped a bomb into the middle of guitar playing, in a way that Alan Holdsworth did, but in a different context.
Yep.
And the thing about Randy Rhoads is that while he played like him, he did his own thing.
Yep.
He wasn't trying to sound like he was completely focused on doing his own thing. Another guitar player who I love, who was taken from us too soon, was Tommy Bolin.
Yep.
Tommy Bolin, who played with the James Gang, and Billy Cobham, after he had played with a guitar master who influenced me, John McLaughlin, after the Mahavishnu Orchestra broke up, he put together the Spectrum Band, and choosing Tommy Bolin was one of the greatest casting decisions ever, because Tommy Bolin he didn't play like Hendrix, but he had this thing that was very similar to me with Hendrix,
Yep.
and in that Hendrix was always going to play something. He wasn't like it didn't. He wasn't intimidated by jazz.
Yeah.
He was a cat that he was going to play whatever he heard, whether it was right or wrong. He was not. He was just going to do it. And Tommy Bolin, to me, the way he played, and very steeped in blues, but also he was like an experimental blues guitar player. It was really cool. The things he did with the Echoplex, like the first song, everybody, if anybody doesn't know the album Spectrum, the Billy Cobham album Spectrum, you should get the album Spectrum. And the first tune, Quadrant 4, is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's incredible. The way Tommy's playing on the whole album is amazing. But he's like, he just is so swinging on top of this boogie, and he's so bananas
Yeah.
with the sounds. I mean, that for me was just the essence of what I wanted to become.
Yep.
That to me was, I love the fact that he not only played with the swagger, he kind of went bananas with the sound, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love when the instrumentalist has their own voice, and those are my favorite guitar players are the ones that are just unique, have their own thing, are not really looking over their shoulder. I mean, that's the thing of like Prince's guitar playing, because Prince was an absolute genius, right?
Yeah. And he didn't care at all.
And Prince, but when you hear Prince's guitar playing, what you're hearing is you're hearing Freddie Stone, like his rhythm style, and I know, and the thing is, Prince and I are the same age. We were both born in 1958. So I know he heard Sly and the Family Stone the same time I heard Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
Except he's a genius. So he's going to turn around and like take the Freddie Stone thing and take that sideways. His phrasing is very much like Santana's phrasing. If you listen to his guitar playing, and he's a chameleon with his guitar playing because he goes into all different directions. Obviously, Hendrix was also a big influence on him.
Yep.
And he took all of these things, his incredibly funky rhythm style, his very expressive lead style, the way the guitar was a separate voice. His rhythm playing made as much impact as, say, with Nile Rodgers with Chic. His rhythm style really had a very big impact in the world. And you could hear that influence in Queen's Another One Bites the Dust.
Yep.
Like Another One Bites the Dust, to me, was almost, part of it is almost like a reaction to what Chic was doing, even though it was a very different music. And it's not surprising that Nile Rodgers became a big time producer in rock and roll music, because what Chic was doing had an impact. Everybody was listening to what other people were doing, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's just hearing all these different currents and cross currents.
Well, I gotta say, and not to even go too far deep into the Living Color thing, obviously you're playing supersedes just even Living Color because you've done so many other things. But it's like, I could say, being a part of like my age group, you knew when Eddie Van Halen was playing guitar. You knew when Vernon Reid was playing guitar, and it's great. I think, especially now more than ever, we need more people like you to innovate the guitar, sound like themselves, and not worry about being on the grid. We're worried about being like playing a specific way. So that's what you offer the world, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I actually, one of the questions I've been dying to ask you is that, like, obviously, like, Living Color had a long history. You guys played for many years, but like after that, you've always kind of like, you've jammed a lot. You've done your own solo projects. You've like been around, the world a million times back. Do you approach your guitar playing with others and your solo projects like differently, or are you thinking about like just like what the song kind of like asks for?
It's a great question, because like I've done different obviously I've done different projects. Like I had a project with DJ Logic. We have a thing called the Yohimbi Brothers, and it's funny with each thing. I have a instrumental band called Mask. I did Yohimbi Brothers. I produced records, these blues influenced records with James Blunt Ulmer, and of course there's the Living Color band, and all the things that we do. And it's funny, I can't I when I play with Living Color, there's almost like a certain, and there's a wide variety of things that we do. When I'm playing with the Yohimbi Brothers, or when I'm playing with Mask, I don't play the I for me. I mean, I'm the same person, but my approach is kind of subtly different. And
Yep.
like with playing like with the Memphis Blood Blues Band, like I like it wouldn't even occur to me to play the way I play in, like I'm playing Cult of Personality. It's just not, you know what I mean? It doesn't.
It's not right for everything.
It's not right, and in fact, it wouldn't even. It's not even. It's not like I'm consciously thinking that. It wouldn't even occur to me to do that,
Yeah.
because it's simply the songs are just very different. They're very different tunes. With that project with Memphis Blood, that's a very taking very, like Howlin' Wolf and those kind of tunes, and playing them, and Muddy Waters tunes. And it's different when I'm approaching a song like Open Letter to a Landlord, or Ignorance is Bliss, or Funny Vibe. That's a very, very different. It's a very different project.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the songs really do determine how things happen. Really,
That's
very much so.
Yeah, that's amazing. Listen, we're definitely getting to that point where we're kind of running out of time. But listen, we have to have you on again because we should. I really want to get into the early days of Vernon Reid. I want to talk about like
Sure.
where you came up and all that other good stuff. And I think that would be a whole nother live stream if you were willing to do it. We'd love to have you back for
Absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah, man. I want to talk about the Coding Society and Ronald Shannon Jackson, and like all the kind of crazy twists and turns that my career took. It's a crazy story. I want to shout out a couple of people.
Yeah, please.
Um,
In
I want to shout
projects,
out,
please.
talk about you know, guitar players and people like that. I want to shout out Mr. Brandon Ross, who's playing with my man Melvin, playing with Melvin Gibbs and JT Lewis, and Harriet Tubman. I want to shout him out. I want to shout out this incredible young guitar player that we haven't actually met. I kind of met him via Twitter. His name is Tom Monder, and his band is Thank You Scientist. It's insane. He's insane.
Yep.
It's really over the top. I want to shout out Mr. Malcolm Brickhouse, the young Mr. Malcolm Brickhouse, who had his band. It's very it's really cool to Unlocking the Truth. It's really cool to think about him. Great young guitar player. Man, I want to shout out Mr. Alex Skolnick.
Oh yeah,
A man of the
Shredder.
Testament. He's an awesome person.
Alex,
Uh,
myself, and you, we're all signature artists from ESP.
yeah, man, it's kind of wild, and so just some of my people, that I want to give them a quick, hey, how you doing? Ben Tyree,
Yep.
great guitarist. He plays with the Burnt Sugar Band, Mr. Andy LaSalle. And I want to also say, we recently lost a great guitar player named of Ronnie Drayton,
Hmm.
and Ronnie was a huge influence on me, and he passed in March, and it's a very, I don't know, man. I don't have the words.
Yeah, I
Um,
hear
but anyway,
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's an excellent list of dudes to call out for sure. Well, before I let you go though, like let's discuss some Fishman stuff too. You've been
oh
using
yeah,
you've been using the triple play stuff, right?
I have been, and I have a triple play of an external pickup, but I also have the internal pickup, the internal Fishman triple play pickup. And I think it's a great system, pitch to MIDI, and it's great. Also, I have the iOS app, and I think it's incredible. I don't know how Larry. I don't know how Larry does it. It's it's very very responsive, and I think it's been a kind of a game changer
Yeah.
in terms of that.
What are you using it for? I mean, mainly,
I've
obviously.
been using I've been using it actually. I'm using it for sound design and for composition. I've been using it for soundtrack stuff. Um, and also, I'm thinking about how I can use it in some kind of live ambient situations, like to control some external synthesizers. It's very, like I said, it's really interesting system.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's excellent. And we knew you were into that, and it's kind of the wave of the future. So we're really happy that you're, endorsing that product and using it. Any other notable Fishman gear?
Oh, any other note? Well, your great pickups,
Oh, Fluence.
the Fluence pickups. Yeah, those are very cool.
Nice. I am the
Yeah.
brand manager of that whole line. So again, I
All right.
appreciate it. Hopefully, we can get it into one of your signature guitars at some point. With ESP.
Well, actually, I'm with PRS.
Oh, PRS. Okay.
I'm with PRS.
So is
I was an ESP artist up until the early '90s. I was associated. Recently, we did a Colt '86 reissue guitar.
that's why I thought you were still
Yeah, yeah.
somewhat
No,
with
no,
it.
no. But actually, I'm currently associated with Paul Reed Smith guitars.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely was like, obviously I'm on the artist roster, and I picked up
Right.
that guitar for the reissue, and I was like, oh man, this is so awesome. I'm holding Vernon Reid's guitar, so yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a PRS signature. This is my
That's
my
awesome.
Vela. Yeah,
Yeah,
this guy right here. That's it. Actually, it.
nice, nice. Well, that's amazing, man. Thank you for showing off all the gear, and this is a good place to wrap it up. But Vernon, hang tight right after the live feed. I just want to talk to you a little bit. But hey, guys, everyone who's watching, thank you so much for joining this Fishman Live with Vernon Reid. We'll be back next week. Wednesday, we're doing Mark from Suicide Silence. He's going to be here, probably talking about metal. So, all right, guys, thank you
Ah,
so much, Vernon. Thank you so much. Hang